He looks like he owns credit. Oh my gosh. Man like Arthur from Batman.
Namaste, dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, hola, good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Ken at 10. How are you? I hope you're well. It is Thursday today, right today, 15th of June, middle of the month, beautiful sunny day here in Norbury. Lovely day for looking at houses, I've got to tell you that. So if you are thinking of going out viewing, no better time than when the sun's out. Although, there could be a better time. And that could be when's convenient for you and your family. So we're always looking to do it when it suits you. Your weekends are a popular favorite, we find. So if you're thinking of viewing, or indeed thinking of getting a valuation, give me a shout. Always pleased to hear from you. And while we're talking about valuations, that is something that I need you to see. This is Rightmove's measure of agents locally in terms of where you are, in terms of number of sales agreed, that kind of thing. And as you can see, as of yesterday, out of 24 agents, we were up 2 places at number 1 for sales agreed. Property views, which is an important measure because this is the way people look at your details and decide whether to look at yours ahead of your competitors. So a really important measure, and we're second on that. And then new instructions, we're third out of 37 agents. We'd never really expect to be first on new instructions, though we occasionally are. And the reason for that is that we try to value accurately. We don't overvalue like some agents. And if you overvalue everything, then the level of instructions you'll gain onto the market is much, much higher. But here's the problem. They're not saleable. Therefore, they hang around. And then your negotiators lose confidence and everybody thinks the market's dead when it's not. So really important to get those values right. And that's what we try and do here at James Alexander. So if you are struggling at the moment, I know many people are because I'm looking at the listings, still available, and wondering what to do next, then a really good piece of action to take would be to give us a call. Gets around for evaluation, no obligation. We'll look at the existing contract. We'd never put you in a situation where you were conflicted between the agency you're with and ourselves. We'd always advise you on the contract you've got, notice, that kind of thing. And often we come up with new strategies which hopefully are substantially better than the one you've had already. And it's actually, in a way, it's kind of nice taking one on from another agent because the sellers can see the difference between the two in terms of the action taken, the care taken, the feedback given, and the levels of service. So if you are currently stuck with an agent and you're really not happy, then do give us a call. Apart from that, lettings as busy as ever. Sales, we're finding, as you can see, quite a few sales agreed in the last week. It's been a bit crazy here at JA, and we've got more to come as well. We've got more just about to tie up, just on the brink as well. So good news on that side. Some interesting new instructions coming up as well, including a beautiful one in Pollard's Hill, a nice little masonette in Mitcham, and a nice 3-bedroom house that needs a bit of TLC. And everybody likes a house with a little bit of TLC needed, don't they? It's what we call the P word, potential. Everybody wants to buy something where they can say, well, I can buy it like this, then I can do that, and then it's worth this and not that. Everybody is excited by that. But the reality is that there's so much interest in houses that need lots of work that quite often the price that we achieve when you add on the works, it would have been cheaper to buy one done. The problem for many people is, though, they can't get the mortgage at the higher level anyway. So for them to get into something that's a bit cheaper and needs a bit more work is the only option for the type, style, and the road that they want in terms of the house, because in the end, the road and location that you want does drive the price ahead of anything else. You know, that's old adage surveyors use. There are 3 things that are important. You've heard it: location, location, location. Can also be said as area, area, and area. You know, where it is more important than what it is, because you can change what it is, but you can never change where it is. So a lot of people don't pay enough emphasis and attention to where a property is located. And the other thing that's really important to some people, of course, me included, is the garden orientation. You know, if you've got a south or west facing garden, it can make a massive difference, because if you're a worker and you come home in the evening and your garden's facing west, then you're going to get those sunsets in the evening, and you can chill out with the missus or the mister in the back garden, you know, whilst having maybe a glass of wine and watching the sun go down. Nothing nicer. Less, of course, your house is obstructed by some awful large planting, which you've had a few problems with recently. I think it's terrible when neighbours do that to the point where they're absolutely, you know, putting their neighbours in the dark, but it happens quite a lot, surprisingly. Apart from that, latest report came out to say that the age of buy-to-let landlords is actually ahead of what expected. Smaller landlords tend to be in the age group of 55 plus. The problem that gives the government is the exodus we're already seeing. About 25% of small landlords are looking to sell at least one property in the next 6 months. If you extrapolate that across the UK, that's 25% more stock going from the market. I think it'll probably be higher than that. But if you put that on top of the demand being higher than it's ever been, and still growing, you can see why there's starting to be a lot of struggles for tenants to find properties and rents continually impacted by this. And of course, from a landlord's perspective, it has to be said, the landlords aren't necessarily looking to be greedy, although some are, of course, like in any market. But many are finding that their mortgage payments have doubled or trebled. In some cases, their rates have gone from 1.5% to as much as 8 or 9%. And you can imagine the uplift in payments that requires has meant that many landlords actually are going backwards and have had to increase their rents just in order to stay still, or indeed, in many cases, break even. So it's tough out there. And we've got an MPC meeting coming next week on the 22nd of June, where this is where the Bank of England decides whether interest rates are going to go up, stay the same, or go sideways. At the last MPC meeting, 2 members of the committee voted the interest rates to hold, and the rest voted for them to increase. What we expect this time is probably, sadly, another increase of what they call 0.25 basis points, or 1/4%. This is frustrating because it's the reason why the banks and building societies are withdrawing all their rates, because they don't know where interest rates are going right now. So very frustrating. What we're hoping is we get to the top of that tree, and then things start to fall off, and then you'll see the swap rates come down, and these swap rates are what determine the fixed rates, and those fixed rates will then follow downwards. But I think we may be in for a little bit more pain before it gets easier. How has this impacted the market? Well, less people are moving. That's the reality of it. And so this is why you need to get your price point exactly right if you want to move. That it's not meaning that the market's fallen off a cliff. It really hasn't. The sensationalism headlines of it's fallen by 10 and 20% are mainly due to the fact of agents overvaluing in the first place and then dropping back the amount they've overvalued in order to sell the houses. So it's nowhere near as bad as some will tell you. But remember, only sensationalism sells headlines. So don't believe everything you read. So apart from that, looking forward to a busy day today. A couple of nice valuations, one off the Green Lane area, which we love, and a house needing a bit of TLC, and the B word, potential. The biggest reason for valuation right now is the 3 Ds I've mentioned before, sadly, death, debt and divorce. A lot of people passed away in December of last year. I don't know why. It just seems to be a particularly awful time. And so we're doing a lot of probate values around that time. And it's always a difficult one. I always think on probate valuations, what we try and do, we'll come along, give the valuation. We always do that free of charge. They follow a slightly different format because the probate office needs to understand what we're valuing. And so we have to put a little description in there. And it's valued at the date, the point that the person passed away, you see. So it's a slightly different format. And I always say to my clients when I'm doing probate valuations, I won't contact you. Normally, if it's a valuation, we'll contact you back and say, look, we're keen. Can we help you to sell? But on a probate, we kind of go the other way and say, look, I don't want you to think we're not keen, but we don't want to intrude on your grief in any way. These things affect different people in different ways. And I think it's really important from an agency point of view that we go softly and make sure that we don't tread on people's grief in that way, because it's bad enough already without agents saying, oh, can we sell it tomorrow? You know, are we ready? It's much better that you wait until they're ready and approach you. So that's how we play those. And then, of course, there's debt. And by debt, I mean, of course, repossessions, which are sad. A lot of the time, though, the repossessions we're seeing are ex-buy-to-let. So it's not quite so bad because often they're vacant. And obviously, the person that bought the property doesn't live there. And therefore, it's not quite as much of a tragedy. The big tragedies for me are when we see a family and they've got to leave. And that's quite heartbreaking, and all their things being removed. So, yeah, that's another reason, debt. And, of course, divorce, the third one, which can be rather difficult. And I have found myself in the middle of arguments between two parties whilst doing the valuations in the past. It can get very, very awkward. On one valuation last year, I can even remember the lady talking past me to her partner while her partner talks to me as if I'm not there. Very awkward indeed. But nonetheless, this is part of our job. And then, of course, you do get the other people that are not impacted by interest rates because they own in cash. And if you own in cash and you're thinking of making a move, as long as you're moving to another place in the UK, guess what? Their market will have moved similarly to yours. So if the market has dropped off, for instance, 5%, it doesn't really matter. Yes, you sell for 5% less, but guess what? You're also buying for 5% less. So in those circumstances, I'd say ignore the market and do what's right for you. And I'd actually say that always. You know, when it comes to move, a lot of people say to me, when should I move? Is this the right time? I always sort of throw it back at them and say, well, is it the right time for you and your family? Because if it's not, then you're going to find yourself halfway through this and then you're going to pull out. So you've got to be confident and sure that this is the right move for you and your family. This is the thing that you want to do. This is how you want to do it and when you want to do it. As calling the market, I would always say try to keep away from that, you know, oh, the market's doing this, so we'll do that. because the market can always surprise you. As we've seen post-pandemic, everybody said the market will fall off a cliff. We know what happened next. So you never really know. Never say never. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching as always. I've got the podcast I'm producing in the morning. It's available right now, actually, on Spotify or wherever you're listening to podcasts. Just search the Property Buyer and Sellers podcast and you'll find it. Thank you for those that have supported, downloaded, liked and shared it. And that's going very well. We're now in the thousands of downloads. So thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. New edition coming out tomorrow morning. So that's it. Look after yourselves. If you can, your family and friends. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, if you're thinking of selling, of course, talk to us, ken@jamesalexander.com, or give us a call, 0208 679 8601. Look after your family and friends. See you tomorrow. Ciao.